Magic Tea House, Book Number 52. A Merlin Mission. Soccer on Sunday, by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 7. By Pele. "I'm so glad," shouted Annie. "Come and squeeze in here with us to watch. Everyone has gone crazy." Jack climbed up onto the bench and stood between Annie and Roberto as they watched the happy celebration on the field. The president of Mexico presented a giant trophy to Brazil, and Carlos Alberto, the captain of the team, lifted it high above his head. "Yay, Brazil!" shouted Roberto. "Yay, Pele!" "Did the ring of truth ever glow?" Jack asked Annie. "When you were watching Pele up close, did you learn a secret of greatness from him?" "No, not yet," Annie said. "Yay, Pele!" "Not yet?" said Jack. "Then when?" "Don't worry," said Annie. "We still have time." She pulled the ring off her finger. "Here, you can wear it again." Jack slipped the ring back onto his finger. "But what's the use?" he thought. "We lost our big chance. How can we ever get close to Pele now?" Followed by hundreds of photographers and TV cameras, the beautiful team was marching around the field. Confetti and streamers floated down from the stands. Firecrackers were whistling and popping over the stadium. Flag bearers waved huge green, yellow, and blue Brazilian flags. A band was playing. Annie and Roberto clapped in rhythm to the music. Trying to hide both his worry and his disappointment, Jack clapped with them. "They're leaving now," said Roberto. Police were leading Pele and all the other Brazilian players off the crazy, crowded field. TV cameras, reporters, and a mob of fans followed the World Cup champions. "We should follow the team too," Annie said to Jack. "Want to?" "We have to," Jack said sharply. "We still have a mission to accomplish, remember?" "Come with us, Roberto," said Annie. "Let's all follow the team. Pronto." They climbed down from the bench and started running across the huge green soccer field. The parade of fans and players were leaving by the farthest exit. "We'll catch up to them outside the stadium," said Roberto, running alongside Jack and Annie. "If I could get even 20 feet from Pele, I would be happy forever." "Me too," said Annie. "Jack and I have a question for him." "No kidding," thought Jack. Jack, Annie, and Roberto hurried through the exit, leaving Aztec Stadium and heading into the parking lot. "Over there, they're getting on a bus," said Roberto. Not far away, fans and media were swarming around the bus. Photographers were snapping pictures, one after another, flash bulbs blazing. TV reporters were shouting questions at the team. Supporters were cheering and waving flags. "Hurry!" cried Jack. They all ran faster, but before they could get to the bus, it pulled away from the crowd. Police pushed fans out of its path so it could leave. "Goodbye," said Annie. "Goodbye, Pele," Roberto yelled. Jack, Annie, and Roberto watched the bus move out of the giant parking lot of Aztec Stadium. "Well, there goes our chance to accomplish our mission," Jack thought dismally. "There will be no reason to journey to Camelot now. It'll be the first time we've ever failed." "Don't worry," Annie said to him, as if she'd read his mind. "I'll bet the team's headed to the city. Let's go back there and look for them. Okay, I guess that might work, said Jack, trying not to give up hope. I heard on the radio they were all going to a banquet in Mexico City tonight. Cool, said Annie. Someone's bound to know where that banquet is. Then maybe we can use our magic mist and get into the party. What? Like make a wish to be the greatest party crashers in the world? Said Jack. Annie laughed. Whatever it takes, she said. She turned to Roberto and asked, Roberto, can you help us get back into the city? Of course. I owe you everything, he said. Not really, said Jack. Everyone deserves a good birthday. Thank you, Jack, said Roberto with a big grin. Come with me. Jack and Annie followed Roberto away from the giant concrete building, through the crowded parking lot, and toward the tram line. Whoa, said Annie. Thousands of people were waiting to board the trams. We will have to wait many hours to get one, said Roberto. Is there another station nearby? Jack asked. Yes, but it will be just as crowded, Roberto answered. What do you think we should do? Annie asked. I have an idea, said Roberto. My great-aunt lives in a neighborhood north of here. Near her house, there is a bus stop. Want to give it a try? Sure, said Jack. We don't have another choice. He and Annie followed Roberto away from the tram station. Clouds had moved back in. A soft rain fell as they walked along a road crowded with cars leaving the stadium. Horns were blaring and drivers were shouting at each other. This way, said Roberto, and he led Jack and Annie away from the busy road into a run-down neighborhood. They passed St. Anthony's Church, a junk store, a laundromat, and a beauty shop. Then Roberto led them down a dirt path between rows of stucco houses. In the light rain, families sat on front porches. Several were listening to portable radios. The announcer was repeating the news about the World Cup final. At the end of the street was a vacant lot filled with kids. When Jack, Annie, and Roberto drew closer, they saw about 20 boys and girls of all ages running around barefoot and covered with mud. The kids were playing soccer. The goal lines had been marked off with tattered nets. A grown-up on the sideline was acting as a referee. He blew a whistle and yelled, "Halftime!" All the kids stopped running. Several players walked away from the field as the others gathered in small groups to talk. "Hey, Roberto!" An older boy waved. "Hey, Miguel!" Roberto waved back. "What are you doing here?" shouted Miguel. "I'm taking my friends back to the city," Roberto answered. "We're going to catch the bus." "Hey, Roberto!" another kid yelled. "Hey, Diego!" "Did you hear Brazil just won?" called Diego. "Yay!" Roberto pumped the air with his fist. "Pelé the Great!" Then he turned to Jack and Annie. "I played ball with these kids once when I was visiting my aunt. If they come over, please do not tell them we just saw the World Cup final. It would make them sad that they could not afford to go." "Okay, we won't," said Annie. Jack nodded. Again, he was impressed by Roberto's kindness. The boy seemed to care about everyone's feelings. "Roberto, can your friends play soccer?" Miguel yelled. "Our team just lost some players for the second half." Before Roberto could answer, another boy jumped in. No, Miguel, not Roberto. Remember that time he played? He was the worst player ever. Yeah, Miguel, remember? Yelled the tall girl. He made us lose big time. I didn't ask Roberto to play, Carla, Miguel said. I asked if his two friends could play. We lost our 3 forwards, but we can play with 2. Jack glanced at Roberto. The boy's smile was gone, and he stared at the ground. No way, Annie said to Jack, gritting her teeth. Not in a million years. Right, not even if we didn't have a mission and were the best players in the world, said Jack. Come on, Roberto, let's get out of here. Wait a minute, said Annie. Then she turned back to the kids and yelled, Yes, Miguel, we can play. Are you crazy? Jack asked her. We'll play on your team, Annie yelled again to Miguel. But only if you'll let Roberto play too. All 3 of us want to be forwards. Roberto shook his head. No, not me. They don't want me. I'm not that great either, said Jack. Annie, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? Nothing. Annie reached into Jack's backpack and took out the small bottle of Merlin's magic mist. In fact, everything's about to be great for all 3 of us. Chapter 8. Game of a Lifetime. Seriously? Said Jack. Yes, said Annie. But what about our mission? Getting into the banquet, meeting the players, said Jack. Right now, this seems more important, don't you think? Said Annie. Jack looked at Roberto's sad face. He thought about the boy's kindness and his happy excitement at the stadium. Yeah, he said. Yeah, it does. He turned and yelled at Miguel. We'll play, but all of us, or none of us. Oh, okay, Miguel said reluctantly. Roberto shook his head. No, Jack, no, he said. Diego's players laughed. You'll lose now for sure, Miguel, one of them yelled. Big time. Give us a minute, Jack said to the soccer players, and he huddled with Annie and Roberto. Jack, they are right. I'm not a good player, said Roberto. Me neither, said Jack. But together we will make a beautiful team. I promise. Listen, Roberto, said Annie. We'll use magic from Merlin, the magician of Camelot, and make a wish to play like Pele, finished Jack. Magic? Said Roberto. Yes, mist gathered at first light on the first day of the new moon on the Isle of Avalon, Annie said. Roberto shrugged. Okay, he said. Are you guys playing or not? Miguel shouted. We're playing, Jack yelled over his shoulder. He pulled the cork from the bottle and breathed in Merlin's magic mist. He smelled oranges and cinnamon and cedar. I wish to play like Pele, he whispered. Jack gave the tiny bottle to Annie. She breathed in the mist and said, I wish to play like Pele. Annie gave the bottle to Roberto, and he breathed in the magic mist. Then he exclaimed with great enthusiasm, I wish to play like Pele. Come on, Miguel shouted from the soccer field. We're coming, 1 second, said Jack. He put Merlin's magic mist away and glanced at his watch. It's 3:15 now. We have 1 hour of magic. At 4:15, the magic ends. Let's go. Jack confidently led Annie and Roberto toward the soccer game. When they got to the edge of the field, Jack stopped. "Off with the shoes," he said cheerfully. The three of them slipped off their shoes and socks to be like the other kids. Jack left his backpack next to his shoes. Then he clapped his hands. "Okay," he said. "Let's play ball." As Jack, Annie, and Roberto walked onto the field, mud oozed between their toes. The rain had stopped, but the ground was soaked. They took forward positions on Miguel's team. "We're ahead by 2 goals, said Miguel. "Don't blow it, okay?" Jack just smiled and nodded. Buzzing with excitement, he was eager to play. The referee placed the soccer ball in the center of the muddy field. A kicker and another teammate from Diego's team stood near the ball. On the other side of the center line, the opposite team glared at the 3 forwards, but Jack wasn't worried. He grinned back at them, eager for the game to start. The referee on the dusty sideline blew a whistle, and the second half of the match began. The kicker on Diego's team tapped the ball to her teammate, who passed it to Diego. As Diego and some other teammates knocked the ball around, Jack noticed that they were really good soccer players. But then suddenly Annie slipped in and stole the ball from them. She whacked it with her instep, passing it to Jack, who slid it to Roberto. Roberto began moving the ball down the field. As Diego's defenders moved in, Roberto changed pace from slow to fast, slow to fast. The ball seemed glued to his feet until he fired a shot and drove it like a missile into the net. "Score!" shouted the referee. "Goal!" Jack, Annie, and Roberto shouted, pumping the air with their fists. All the other players gasped in amazement. "Who are you guys?" Carla shouted. The goalie kicked the ball back into play. Carla passed it to a girl, who tried to pass it to a boy. But, like lightning, Jack moved in and shot the ball through the air to Roberto. Roberto used his thigh to poke the ball to Annie. Annie stopped the ball with her foot and dribbled it past 2 defenders down the field, then passed it to Jack. Jack moved the ball backward, forward, and sideways with short taps of his feet. He had never had so much fun in his life. He felt as if his feet could do anything. He saw Roberto across the field and kicked the ball to him, passing it over the heads of the defenders. Roberto gave the ball a leaping header, sending it to Annie. Annie tapped the ball on the ground, then ran with it, keeping it close. She faked a move one way, then another, then kicked the ball backward to Roberto. Roberto delivered another perfect shot into the net. "Score! Goal!" Jack, Annie, and Roberto shouted, pumping the air with their fists. The goalie kicked the ball back into play. The opposing side started the ball down the muddy field, but Jack moved faster. He intercepted it and passed it to Annie. Annie sent the ball back to Roberto, who scooped his foot under the ball and popped it over a group of players right to Jack. Jack out-jumped 2 defenders and hit the ball with his chest, sending it down the field. Roberto sped after the ball, stole it from 2 players, and gave it a swift kick right into the net. "Goal!" Jack, Annie, and Roberto shouted, pumping the air with their fists. "Goal!" echoed the kids on Miguel's team and Diego's team. All the players seemed to be enjoying the work of the beautiful team of Jack, Annie, and Roberto. As the game went on, everyone was playing really well. But Diego's players were no match for Jack, Annie, and Roberto. The three of them were like a goal-scoring machine. Hearing the shouting and cheering from the soccer game, people left their porches and yards and hurried over to see the match. The spectators watched Jack, Annie, and Roberto move like dancers, making low free kicks, long-range kicks, and leaping headers. They watched them hit the ball with their right and left feet, their foreheads, and their chests, stomachs, and thighs. They watched them dribble the ball down the field by tapping it with both feet and send knuckleballs zigzagging across the dirt into the net. In the final seconds of the game, everyone watched Jack execute a perfect bicycle kick. Like an acrobat, he threw his legs up in the air and kicked an overhead ball to Annie, who sent it on to Roberto, who shot it past the goalie into the net. Score! All the spectators, all the players, and even the referee pumped their fists in the air and screamed, "Goal!" Then the referee blew the final whistle. "Game over!" he shouted. There was a huge roar from the spectators. "What's the score?" someone shouted from the crowd. "Who cares?" said the referee. "That was amazing!" All the players from both teams had big smiles on their wet, dirty faces. They were slapping each other on the back. Miguel and Diego picked up Roberto and carried him on their shoulders. Other players gathered around Jack and Annie, asking for their autographs. A teenager took pictures of them with her instant camera. An old man shook their hands, saying, "You three are the beautiful team." In the middle of the noisy celebration, Annie shouted to Jack, "What time is it?" 5 minutes to 4, he said, glancing at his watch. "We'd better go. Remember Coney Island and Thebes?" said Annie. "Oh yeah, definitely," said Jack. On their last 2 missions, they'd found themselves in big trouble when their magic hour of greatness had ended. Jack and Annie turned to Roberto, who was now holding a toddler, posing for the camera. After the picture was taken, Jack leaned close and said, "We have to leave fast before the magic wears off and we turn into our regular selves." "Okay," said Roberto. He gave the child back to her mother. "Let's go to the city, but I warn you, they will all follow us." "Then let's go while we're still great athletes and runners," said Annie. The 3 of them turned back to the crowd and waved. "Bye," Jack, Annie, and Roberto said, backing up. Everyone shouted at once. "No, wait! Don't go! Stay! Stay!" "Sorry, but we have to go," said Annie. "Thank you so much for letting us play." Jack grabbed his backpack. All 3 grabbed their shoes and shot. "Run!" yelled Roberto, and they took off running away from the soccer field. Kids from both teams ran after them. The kids were all shouting, "Stop! Come back! Join our team! Join our team!" But the beautiful team kept running. Using their magic skills, they jumped barefoot over a crumbling stone wall and leapfrogged over a row of garbage cans. "Wait! Don't leave us!" The soccer kids kept chasing after them. "This way!" Roberto led Jack and Annie down an alley and out to a dirt road. The 3 of them ran between rows of cinder block buildings. They zipped around a maze of sheets and towels hanging on clotheslines. They jumped over potholes and smelly garbage. As they kept running and leaping, Jack felt as if he were flying. He felt agile and light-footed. Then suddenly, Jack felt heavy and clumsy. Out of breath, he slowed down and came to a stop. Annie and Roberto did the same. Covered with mud, the three of them collapsed onto the ground. I can't run anymore, Jack said. Me neither, said Annie. I'm dead, said Roberto. Jack looked at his watch. 17 minutes after 4, he said breathlessly. Our magic hour is over.